All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 64. Well, Church of Terra is
pretty much done
done. Yeah, although Vili did get away. But
yeah, it did seem like they were setting him up to be something a little bit bigger down the road.
Right.
And while the Church of Terra on Earth is pretty much done, that is more of just the
home base
for the organization in the Himalayas. And while there could be places just on Terra, just in general, where there could be remaining members, they won't have a centralized command for a while.
Right. But there still could be pockets of them out in other areas of the galaxy, so that'll be a thing. But all in all,
vengeance.
Yes, but went pretty well, all things considered.
All things considered, especially with Julian as well.
Yes, especially with Julian.
Yeah.
The Empire actually was a good thing. Like, it was a good thing that they showed up, because otherwise they would have been in serious trouble.
Yeah, they were drugging the food to the point where they were going to turn them into mindless, brain-dead cultists.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's
awesome.
That's freaky. So, we got them supposedly out, but the Himalayas were collapsed. Like, not just flooded, but then
Everest
also
can't
collapsed.
catch a break.
Yeah. And that's its own thing. So Julian is probably going to be out of the general picture for a little bit as they find a way to get out of this whole thing. And then
maybe more adventures with Imperials, because
that was very possible.
I mean, he is the boy that will bring together both sides, hopefully. So
yeah, and I could see Wallen being one of the admirals on the Imperial side that's like,
sensible enough to
absolutely. Yeah. Well, we'll take you on,
Right, yeah. They don't even need to know that he's, was the roommate and protege of Yang. Yeah. That's need to know basis.
Thing. Yeah, no big deal, no big deal.
Yep.
But things going along rather smoothly. And,
so far.
Let's see how things blow up though on the Alliance side of things, and maybe how the Empire responds to it. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Okay.
Well,
we had some wonderful things this episode.
This was a very good episode for setting up a lot of the repercussions for what happened in Alliance space.
Right.
We got to see Julian's side of things and that he's going to be okay. He's coming back to the Empire.
Which is a dream come
true. With Wallen.
Which is also rather aptly timed, because, he might arrive right around the time that, Reinhardt leaves to set up the base.
That would be kind of funny. Wallen is exempt from this order. And whoever's accompanying with him as well.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want them to be within, 5 kilometers of me.
But I love that, Julian does stuff, and it just syncs up perfectly with new orders from the Empire of, big movements. Go do this, right? Oh, it's great.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It keeps him safe. It's a fun way in which he is very much going to live a long life in this show.
Right.
But then we had a very good conversation with the High Admirals.
Yes, but since we'll probably spend the whole discussion on that pretty much.
Yeah, totally.
I want to just go through some other things first. We also got Reinhardt with his long locks.
Yes.
So that's
glorious locks.
Glorious locks. We've caught up to the OP and that look for him and everything, which makes me a bit concerned, because that means that now he is kind of potentially on the chopping block, especially with the whole thing of the candle that burns twice as bright for half as long, and he's like, that doesn't bother me. And then the whole thing of moving the the capital and all that stuff, and it's like, okay, and separating himself from Mariendorf, and then all the stuff that's happening with Oberstein. It's like, Reinhard, buddy.
Oh boy! I'll just say it. We said it in the reaction, but this is the determined start of his downfall.
Right, the beginning of the end.
There was a part before this where he was starting to decline, but this is where he is basically on a collision course.
Right.
There is almost
set in stone.
There is almost no way he can stop his demise if he doesn't really hard break stop.
Get a therapist, see your sister,
see your sister, for the love of God. Okay.
But
that all being
said,
let's talk about the Admiralty meeting and that meeting.
That was so awesome.
That was so good.
Was so awesome.
So Ruental steals the show.
He really does.
And tells Lang, who very much seemed to invoke the air of the Golden Bomb dynasty a bit by being a bit too much in worship of Reinhard.
Yeah, rather than addressing the situation practically.
How dare you criticize someone who Reinhard posted there?
A sacred, inviolable name.
Yes, his name is inviolable. You cannot suggest that he made a mistake. And,
silence, you wretch!
Yeah, silence, you wretch. The idea that he also gave them the order of tread lightly here.
Yeah.
It was basically a thing of where he's like, in my day, the secret police would go after you in your homes if you spoke ill of the high leader. And this group of people that he's with are those that have to discuss things in such a way where it is objective and not bringing in their personal biases or
also
language, inhibiting, whatever.
They are some of the most trusted people in Reinhard's repertoire. They have been around him for a lot longer than you, right? And yes, Ruental may have ambitions and things like that, but sit down. And
I loved also how quickly Ruental jumped on this, because Mittermeier was about to say something. Ruental shut the whole thing down there, played the leader, in some ways rolled right into a position where he could lump kind of the two of Oberstein and Lang together there, so that Oberstein had to agree to this.
Well, and that was the other issue, is that when Oberstein was talking with Lang later, it was almost like a thing where he's pissed at him because he's basically saying,
"You idiot!
You idiot! Up. You're the other imposter with me, and you just made me look hella sus, right? This could have been just fine, but you opened your big mouth, and yes, I also wanted you thrown out of there.
You made that way harder. You made that way harder for me, and don't then turn to Ruental and make the same mistake as Lennenkampf and chase down a just man without any evidence.
Right.
And then Lang gives the noted. I will get
incontrovertible
evidence. Incontrovertible.
Yeah.
And we know that currently Ruental has a weakness, an exposed area of his armor where he discusses things intimately with a certain person that he mentions in the episode. So Lang
and
could
she does
find
want
things.
him gone. So
oh yes. So that is
he is walking a very dangerous rope.
Yes, but he is now starting to gain allies. Mittermeier's pride was hurt here in a way that shows and reminds us, I would say, what Mittermeier's weakness was all along, in that he's a bit youthful and hot-headed.
Yeah. And Oberstein is not diplomatic, so the whole thing of bringing up Lichtenlad, it's that's
logical.
That's a great counterpoint. The whole thing of the
does your conscience still pain you?
Still pain you? It's okay,
all right,
shut up,
Oberstein.
dude. Right.
Yeah,
it's a bit much.
It's a bit much. Now, I think that in terms of diplomatic kind of engaging with the other admirals to potentially have them see a little bit more of Oberstein's side of things, that might have worked, maybe, if not for the fact that Lang opened his big mouth and made this into a thing of where you can't criticize, the leadership's decisions.
Right.
That's the whole thing they're doing here.
Exactly.
There was a leadership position that was used improperly. They all know that.
Yep.
It's the thing of where do they send their resources to initially with the highest priority.
Yep.
And while they debate this, what this does is it opens up the upper echelons of the Empire's leadership to disagreeing with each other on how to handle this.
Yep.
Which then, if push comes to shove, could turn things into
infighting and like proper infighting, not just disagreement and stuff.
Yeah, the politicking that was the thing that this nation was built upon, Mittermeier.
Yeah.
The kind of subterfuge that leads towards people not drinking their wine when offered.
Right. Mittermeier saying that, it's just yes, actually.
Yes. Very much so.
Did you forget? Now, I love the point of Ruental really... I respected him a lot in this scene. Like,
like
even though there was a lot of what he was doing that was like for the sake of his own ambitions and things like that, right? He sensed the weakness with Oberstein, and that was something that he could press, right? And we should investigate how this happened on both sides, right? Like, yeah, I love it, right? That's good stuff. But the part where he is just being moderator and being like, hey, yes, Oberstein, you're right. We did do that with Lichtenlad, but he also was going to get us. So that's different circumstances. That's not the same situation.
Lambs or limbs.
Right, exactly. It's different when you have someone who is retired at home. You know, clearly wasn't in a position to do anything, and probably didn't even desire to do anything. Right. So this is something different. But then Oberstein has the whole thing of, well, yes, but let's not forget, and this is why he's probably so pissed at Lang, because this is a good point he's making. He's like, even though it shouldn't have happened, Yang shouldn't have been pushed like this, the results of the matter is that he kidnapped, and we'll later find out, they will think, killed the consul, right?
It'd be very hard for them to convince the Empire that Lennenkampf killed himself.
Right. That's big effing problem. Like Yang's situation is basically screwed at this point.
It is.
And for for them, like, yes, Mittermeier, we could do the thing of revealing all the information rather than obfuscating, right?
Oh, totally.
But even if you do that, you still need to address the fact that
there's a rebellion happening.
There's a rebellion happening
right now.
Yeah. And that cannot be allowed to continue.
Yeah. So this is the perfect situation to where if both sides here cannot come to middle ground agreements, which apparently they did on some level.
Yeah.
Because Oberstein came to Reinhardt with the deliberation of the Admiraltat, however they pronounce that bit there, where the assemblage of admirals, basically. Yeah. High admirals, specifically. Yes. And this is the thing, though. These are the high admirals and not...
and no one else.
Well, there are admirals here as well. But it's the main point is that the high admirals...
I think this might just be high admirals.
No, of course not. Because Mecklinger and all the rest of them are there. The high admirals are just Oberstein, Mittermeier.
No, those are the fleet admirals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the point is that we have these key members of Reinhardt's group here. And what the decision was that they came to was that Oberstein sends the results of the whole thing, basically saying that while the criticism raised against Lennenkampf's actions is something that was unexpected, which is a little bit of his little bias thrown in there, quite a few are pressing for an investigation, basically saying that while he might not agree with it necessarily, we should take matters into account here that a number of them, a notable number of them, are pressing for an investigation. So something in that nature might need to be looked into. Of course, Reinhardt makes the decisions with fiat, power, but the other side of it is, the Alliance's ability to maintain order is in question, so the military might need to be mobilized at any moment. And then Reinhardt immediately goes, Lennenkampf was a mistake. And I admit that.
And I love how he thinks about it afterwards, and he's like, wait a minute. Did I want Lennenkampf to screw up?
Maybe.
Because
I really think he did.
Yeah, I think so too.
There was a bit, like many episodes ago, where he brought up the idea of, Lennenkampf's a bit of the old way.
And really, like, I can't remember who brought it up. Maybe it was Ruenthal, but that Oberstein would have been probably the best person to oversee the situation over there. Now, granted, because this is what he wanted to happen, it could have ended up going the same way, but since he wouldn't have had a puppet like Lennenkampf, he probably would have ended up doing a better job of it. But of course, that would have been bad for Oberstein, because then he's not next to Reinhardt, right? So,
the awkward thing about this whole thing, the situation was one where both Oberstein and Ruenthal probably wanted to be over there and be the ones kind of maneuvering this stuff. But you can't have Ruenthal be far away from you. You have to keep him close.
Don't let him get delusions of grandeur.
Oberstein is too useful in an administrative ways to have him go over there. So
right. He would run it perfectly, but then you wouldn't have him in the Empire.
Yeah. And Kessler, who I would say is the next best person on that bill to send over there, he's way too useful, way too loyal. He's the goodest of doggo boys.
You need him to be with the Fiat ruler, right? Like
Bittenfeld would have
been a joke.
That would have been a joke.
Yeah.
I would have sent Steinmetz, actually, immediately. Okay. I would have sent Mueller. I would have sent Wallen. There are so many other people. Mecklinger. I would have sent all these other people before this. I think keeping Mittermeier and Ruenthal together just keeps the two of them happier. And they're both high admirals, so I don't think it makes sense to send them there. But it does feel like when you look down this list of admirals that Lennenkamp feels like everyone's last pick. So Reinhardt, I really do think you need to get a little bit of a self-awareness check and be like, you did want this.
Yeah.
You are showing Mariendorf also that you wanted this as well. So,
yep. There are a few things that basically I want to draw attention to. One, there's the fact that he did want this, right? Which goes to show subconsciously, right?
Yeah,
but it goes to show that basically, you are on the degrade, right?
He's Alexander the Great here.
Yeah, yep.
He needs someone to fight. Yeah.
We have another situation, and we've had this before, not in as extreme circumstances, but we've had this before, where Reinhardt was unable to attend a meeting of the Admiralty.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Now, they're for good reasons. It's not because he's just, relaxing and lazy or whatever. No, he's sick, right?
Yeah.
Which
and he's
goes
been sick
to show
for a decent bit.
Yeah, which goes to show, Reinhardt, you need to take care of yourself, boo. You're not doing that, and this is going to continue.
Yeah.
But from the perspective, regardless of intent behind it and the reasoning behind it, the results of the matter is still something where the admirals came to a decision and then presented it to Reinhardt, which is something that stinks of the old order.
Yep.
Right? Even though he is, there were reasons for it. Yep. So, in this situation, we got Ruenthal needing to step up and be the leader because that was needed. Ambition aside, someone needed to do what Ruenthal did there. Yep. And no one else was really going to do it. They wouldn't have been able to do it and achieve the same result.
And to be fair, it had to be one of the biggest people there. And I feel like if Ruenthal didn't do it, Oberstein was going to do it 3 seconds later. But Ruenthal is slow. Oberstein is slow to speak. He wants to have his words be measured and calculated.
Right. And the disagreement was between some of the fleet admirals, so you need, it makes, the other admirals are probably well, we're not gonna, these are our superiors,
Right.
But,
That was a really good scene, just in general, to have all these characters give their point of views on the matter, and yet it really did boil down to just a few of them actually fully engaging in the discussion. It was Ruenthal versus Oberstein here. That was where it kind of came down to. And Mittermeier was very much the one that kind of led to the opening of the disagreement by focusing so entirely on,
we must do the right thing.
Yeah, who was the one that initiated? Who fired first? Well, we got the info here of,
It was Lennenkamp.
Yeah. Yeah, Lennenkamp was the one that did this here.
Yep.
And as far as the stuff that we got from the captain, Ratzel, there was no basis upon which they arrested Yang other than, might as well just do it.
Right.
And yes, this is the equivalent of, I think there was a point in history where something like this happened where a revolution of sorts was started because the leader for the group basically was
taken captive to preemptively cut the legs out from the revolution.
And it just mobilized them. It just got them even more excited.
It was the catalyst for everything.
I'm trying to remember because it wasn't a revolution necessarily. It was a regime change of some kind.
Gotcha.
But it might have been Napoleon. I don't think it was Napoleon though, because Napoleon was just in power and then he just kept coming back.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to go and look in on that because there was something about this whole thing that just very much reminded me of this is just a more in-depth look at what it would be like if you had
all the details of how that would work.
If you had a good man in the role of the revolutionary leader.
Right.
Because he doesn't want to be in power.
Yep.
He doesn't want to go to revolution.
And
he
quite
just
frankly,
wants to have his quiet, peaceful life, you know?
If they did a full investigation and Yang cooperated completely, which he wouldn't do, right? You know, because it's the cat's out of the bag, genie's out of the bottle.
He would
it's not going back in.
He would probably get arrested or in some ways.
Right. But theoretically, it could be discovered that Yang didn't actually have anything to do with the revolution.
Right.
That it was all his subordinates. But then in order to actually appease the Empire, Yang would probably have to give up his subordinates.
Yeah.
Which... That would
be bad for
Yang.
bad
for Yang.
Yeah.
That would be very bad for Yang because
they wouldn't let him do that.
No. And if he managed to succeed, well, okay, but there would be the people that would, you know, that wouldn't have gotten taken in by the Empire that would then be like, well, that's a problem, right? And revolutions very quickly, you know, anybody can be under the guillotine, right? Like so.
Yeah.
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 But it would keep this from blowing up into a bigger war. And the whole idea... But it's going to. And the whole idea of like, hey, if they did come in as, like, the Empire did come in as, like, an investigative thing of, like, hey, we're actually going to come in and mediate things between the Alliance and Yang, because clearly there's bad blood, there's something that is going to make it so it's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
That is a way that they could kind of end up... not
de-escalating?
De-escalating, but... peacefully tightening their grip on the Alliance because
they would have to station a fleet there, dude.
Well, no, right. But if it is truly done as a we're going to come to a peaceful solution to this, you know, whether you want to or not, kind of a thing, that doesn't involve them like killing Yang or executing him or taking him prisoner or anything like that, that could theoretically take the wind out of the sails of the revolutionaries because then they don't have a leader.
I disagree because they're going to be threatened with incarceration, never seeing their families again, potentially death.
No, right.
They're all going to be tried as
for the
enemies
people
of the Empire.
Right, for the people that actually did it, absolutely. Right. For the masses, like because the big problem here is not whether they have like a couple thousand ships or things like that and they rebel. It's does that spread to the populace, right? Does that become something where then the populace rallies behind Yang and things like that? If they did that, I don't know, but I feel like that would be something where it would stop it with the Yang's old military people that actually busted him out and, you know, and did all these things and whatnot. But of course that's not going to happen because Yang wouldn't go along with that, and the Empire probably wouldn't decide to do that. And,
but in order to basically say, hey, we're going to enforce peace here, they would have to bring a dang fleet in. And in order to do that, it would be a lot more than just stating, hey, this is what we want to do. The Alliance has to work with them.
Right.
And in order to do that, they're going to have to basically accept even harsher sanctions and all kinds of other things that will affect the average citizen of the Alliance, which then, in my opinion, will just cycle things back to where then they all rally behind Yang, and they become like Yang's subordinates, where they're like, we need you to save us. And he gets pushed even more into the situation of, now I'm the actor on stage, and I have to be the lead role and carry this whole production. And I just feel for Yang here because there's no way he can win here.
Yeah, the part where he like is pretending to take a nap so that he can actually like think through things.
Yeah,
I love because
that's awesome.
One, it's a fun joke, right?
It is.
You know, because I can never get a moment's rest and things like that and blah blah blah. And they're like, oh, he's just napping all the time, right?
Yeah.
Which has fun parallels to Reinhardt being actually sick and not being able to attend the meeting, right? And being cut off from the people under him, right?
Yeah.
But it's also communicating this whole notion that Yang really doesn't feel like he's connected to his subordinates necessarily because they forced him into this situation. Now, granted, the Empire also forced this situation to happen, right? But he's not sharing these thoughts with the people around him. He's going to where he can finally get some sensible conversation in his own head, right? You know, like that's what's happening, and it's hilarious to think about and say, right? But
it's kind of depressing.
But it's kind of depressing, and it's kind of scary when thinking about his future. And given that, again, in this episode, we had Julian being set up even more so as you are the future of everything. Yeah. Like, Reinhardt's decline, definitely. It's happening. He's on a collision course with the ground, basically.
Yeah. Yang could be as well.
Yang's starting to teeter.
Yeah, and it's the fact that he has, well... to parallel things with Reinhardt, he has a potential rift that's forming between him and his command, basically. And that's no good.
Right.
A lot of these people that are in this story spiral out of control once they end up alone. It's very simple, but that's real life too.
Yep.
So in the situation where Reinhardt is very truly alone relationally, that makes sense. Which is why you need your sister, buddy. You need to marry that Mariendorf. Like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
But on the other side of things, Yang has a couple people nearby. He does.
Yep.
But they're starting to show the things of where they're like, no, we'd rather push him. We'd rather use him. We'd rather make him do the stuff. And it's like,
Which is problematic at best.
Okay, I understand why, and I think he understands why, because it's going to come to the point where there might not be anyone else that can be used.
But these are the facts of the case, and they are undisputed. Like, it doesn't change what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general. Also, be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. Info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.